Good evening. My name is Janelle Watts, and I'm currently pursuing a MSc in Public Sector Management. Tonight, my task is to present my research plan as part of the requirements for the course MGMT 6203 Research Seminar. The presentation tonight will take the following format: introduction, summary of literature review, methodology, data collection and analysis procedure, and concluding with a list of references. It is my hope that at the end of it, you will have a clearer understanding of the objective I'm trying to achieve. The topic for my research is the role and relevance of credit unions in developing economies, the Antiguan and Barbudan case study. The reason for choosing this topic is because I am of the opinion that credit unions generally are underrated and often can be seen as second class to the traditional banks. Because of the expanding services that credit unions now offer, they have made themselves relevant, and if there is concrete evidence to measure the level of impact, then the regulatory framework would reflect such. The objectives of the research, therefore, are to determine on a macro level the factors that contribute to economic growth and development, to determine the level of contribution credit unions make to the Antiguan and Barbudan economy, and lastly, based on the contribution level, assess whether more needs to be done by the government to increase the support given to credit unions, legislative and otherwise, to continue and expand their work. Antigua and Barbuda has a fairly active credit union movement, with 6 major credit unions comprising both of closed and open-bonded cooperative credit unions. The credit unions in the country fall under the remit of the Antigua and Barbuda Cooperative League Limited, which is the umbrella organization that channels resources in the form of technical expertise and provides a space in which experiences can be shared and best practices sought. The League also advocates on behalf of the movement and lobbies stakeholders for meaningful change. On the other end of the spectrum is the Financial Services Regulatory Commission, the FSRC, which is responsible for the regulatory framework in which credit unions in the country operate. In an era with increased regulation and changing standards, credit unions are required to be constantly evolving to meet the needs of its members, as well as to fulfill the statutory requirements which may not, on the surface, be in keeping with its core values and principles. It is in this vein that the role of the regulators will be examined and the part that they play in determining the factors which contribute to economic development within the country. Given the data that is collected on a monthly, quarterly, and annual basis, what factors are taken into consideration when informing policy decisions that shape the regulatory framework within this country? The work examined will be broken down into the following headings: definition or examination of credit unions and their structure, microfinancing and its contribution to economic growth and development, models that can track the level of contribution the credit union make to economic development, and a regional analysis of credit union contributions. Some articles included in the research are The Impact of Credit Union Financial Intermediation on Economic Growth, a Multicultural Analysis, written by Odaisi, Kofi, and Afrin, 2013. This article looks at the concept of microfinancing and its impact on credit union growth. Microfinance is a term used to describe financial services such as loans, savings, insurance, and fund transfers to entrepreneurs, small businesses, and individuals who lack access to traditional banking services. Credit unions fall under this category, hence the relevance of the article to the research. Another article, The Contribution of Credit Unions to National Development of Barbados, written by Griffith Waith Lord Craigwell in 2009. This article was chosen because of the regional context, and since Barbados and Antigua economies are similar, the article was considered for its value. Our liquidity is trust, not cash. Credit Unions in Rural Social Economy 2011 by Kernston, Markey, and Perry. This article is relevant since it examines the impact credit unions have on development and based on assessments done, it was shown that there was indeed a positive relationship. Credit Unions and Community Economic Development, 1997, by Fairbairn, Hammond, and Krebs. This article sets the context and background regarding credit unions and their relevance to economic development. Although the information is dated, it is felt that it is still relevant. The proposed methodology is to familiarize myself with the data that is available regarding credit unions operating within Antigua and Barbuda, assess the regulatory framework in which credit unions exist, conduct interviews with credit unions to get a sense as to the impact on economic development credit unions have, using the available data, construct a model to determine the impact, if any, and record the findings and make recommendations on the way forward. Data collection and analysis procedure. The proposed approach would be taken the proposed approach to be taken would be to gather primary data from the FSRC, which is collected on a monthly basis to determine the current situation within the economy. Then, interviews would be conducted with key personnel from the organization to get a sense of the contributing factors to economic development, their influence on the regulatory framework, and how the presence of credit unions impact that process. Next, interviews will be conducted with league personnel and by extension credit unions to get a sense of the level of contribution from a qualitative standpoint which credit unions make to economic development within the country. In addition, the relationship between the regulators and credit unions will be assessed to determine whether the current state of affairs either lends to or hinders the creation of an enabling environment. The same question will be asked of the regulators to get an appreciation of both sides of the divide. From the research done, the following could be used to analyze and present the data that would be collected. The Community Economic Development Approach (CED) recommends that rural communities reorient away from space economy contexts towards a place-based economy as well as to become more resilient. A place-based approach encourages communities to look beyond natural resource exploitation and instead to consider the unique attributes of their particular place in order to generate their own solutions to their common economic problems. The generalized method of movements. In the literature, credit union loans to savings ratio is used as a proxy for credit unions' financial intermediation. Elements such as inflation, capital formation as a share of GDP, and credit to private sector as a share of GDP are used as control variables. Capital formation affects economic growth. Studies have also found a positive effect of private domestic credit on per capita GDP growth. Dynamic ordinary least squares is an econometrics methodology which suggests that variables of interest that affect economic growth are government capital expenditure, real capital stock, and cash of credit unions. The dynamic ordinary least square methodology is the preferred method because it's good for small samples and give consistent estimates where variables have different orders of integration. The Pearls Financial Standards are the world's standard measure for performance of credit unions. The acronym PEARLS is identified as protection, effective, financial structure, asset quality, rates of return and costs, liquidity, and signs of growth. Here you find a list of references that was used to inform this presentation as well as the research, and thank you for your attention.